At Language Intelligence, we encourage our linguists to use the tools available to them to enhance translation productivity. If you're already using CAT tools, you can use machine translation engines, translation memory, and terminology management to your advantage. By setting up all of these tools to work in harmony, our linguists have been able to as much as double their productivity. In this video, we'll show you some of the tools and configurations you can use to increase your working speed while still producing high-quality translations. You can also refer to our more in-depth documentation on these topics if you need more information. First, let's take a look at machine translation. There are several options for machine translation providers, such as Google Translate, Microsoft Bing Translator, or SDL Language Cloud. We've created a guide for how to set up and use a Google Translate-powered API within Trados Studio, but you might want to consider other options depending on your language pair or preferences. By setting up an API key or using a provider that links directly to your CAT tool, you have your own link to the machine translation engine, which allows you to fetch translations from a constantly improving tool. You should use the machine translation suggestions as guidelines or reference to help you formulate the final translation. You'll find that some material produces very good MT results, in which case you can just edit segments for fluency and consistency. Sometimes more complex texts don't get MT results that are as high quality. In those cases, you can still leverage word-by-word or phrase-by-phrase automated translation. You'll want to enable automated translation if you don't currently have it turned on. Just go to the Options menu in Studio, choose Auto-Suggest, and then Translation Memory and Automated Translation. You should have automated translations checked to include MT results in the Auto-Suggest lists. Let's look at a few examples. When you open a new segment, the API will fetch a translation for the whole segment. If that translation is usable or only requires minor edits, press Ctrl+T to insert it. Sometimes the translation of the full segment won't be usable. Rather than inserting and post-editing it, you should just start typing your own translation. The automated translation feature will predict the next several words or phrases based on the machine translation suggestions. When you see an automated suggestion you'd like to use, just arrow down through the menu to select it, and then press Tab or Enter to insert it. As you continue typing, you'll see more suggestions. You can use translation memory alongside machine translation results. Keep in mind that the translation memory is generally a client-approved translation, and it should always take precedence over MT results. It's important to make sure that MT translations are edited for consistency with TM matches. You should also add your post-edited segments to your translation memory as you work. We suggest committing each segment to the translation memory when you complete it in order to leverage internal fuzzy matches. To do so, just press Ctrl+Enter when you've completed your translation, and you'll see the confirmed icon appear next to the segment. This helps ensure consistency and minimize the rework of editing segments you've already corrected before. If you're working with Studio 2017, you'll also be able to use the Uplift feature, which uses machine translation to repair fuzzy matches. You can find lots of information about this on SDL's help site. In addition to translation memory, term bases can help you improve the effectiveness of machine translation results. By keeping a term base running while you work, you'll maintain consistency among your translations and get better auto-suggest results. If you're working on a project with an existing term base, your project manager will provide it in the translation package. Even when there isn't an existing term base, you might find it useful to have your own and use it on all projects. Setting up a new term base is fairly simple, but it does require SDL multi-term. To create a term base with multi-term, simply follow the creation wizard steps and make sure to add the appropriate languages to your term base. Link the created term base to your project under Project Settings. Make sure the languages of your project and the languages in the term base are linked appropriately. Then you should see the term recognition window in the editor interface, but you might have to enable it in your view settings. As you're working, you can add terms to your term base by highlighting the term in both the source and target columns and pressing Ctrl+F2. You will now see the term suggested in the Auto-Suggest menu whenever it appears. Even when you use all the tools available to you, it's important to run the same quality assurance tests as you would on any other translation project. You can use Studio's Verify feature to make sure terms are used consistently, as well as to check for fuzzy matches that you might have looked over. We hope these tips will help you work more efficiently using the technology available to you. You can refer to our print documentation for more in-depth information.